Hey everybody, it's Mark, DoctorDeadwax, and it's time for Lead into Deadwax 3. And I have man flu, so bear with the voice. So today I'm going to talk about this album, Klaatu, 347 E.S.T, Eastern Standard Time. Klaatu, they took their name from the alien in the movie The Day the Earth Stood Still. And he was the guy that came out of the spaceship and talked to everybody. It's not... This episode is sponsored by Lemon Citron Honey Lozenges. It's not the robot alien Gort. It's the guy who had the helmet on and took it off and interacted with people. Anyways, so that's where the name Klaatu comes from. And then the record was called 347 EST because that is the time in the movie when the spaceship landed. Or when he came out of the spaceship. Not entirely sure of that. So this is Klaatu's first record. And this is just a masterpiece of a record. Klaatu started as two guys, John Wallowshuck and D. Long. And they recorded some singles that actually appear on this record, re-recorded. And then after that, Terry Draper joined. And that was the trio that was Klaatu for their entire career. So John Wallowshuck, he was an accountant for a record label. He still is an accountant for a record label, so he never really wanted to tour with this band, and neither did D. Long. So they never did until their very last studio release, which is four records after this. So they released this record, and they never put their names on it. So although each of the tracks were subsequently credited to specific musicians, different ones of them wrote different songs. Sometimes they wrote them together. One of the guys wrote with somebody else, and they used a stage name for that writing credit. All of this stuff is just Klaatu, and basically there's no information on this record. It's got these gorgeous thick cardboard inner sleeves too. But and they have the lyrics, and the artwork is just fantastic. None of the... it just has song titles, and this is Glasses Roulette again. And produced by Klaatu, all selection composed by Klaatu, all selections published by Klaatu, a Daffodil recording. 1976 Daffodil Records, distributed by GRT. So there is no information about them available to the public, and in 1976 it's not the world that we live now with the internet. So there's songs on here. This record is kind of psychedelic, psych rock, prog rock, baroque pop, prog pop, Beatles-esque, Magical Mystery Tour, Sgt. Peppery at times, backwards tapes, backwards instrument playing, sitars, all kinds of moogs, all kinds of weird, crazy stuff goes on this record, and at times it sounds a little Beatlesque, and some dumbass journalist in the States said, is this an uncredited Beatles record? And some people thought so because of the sun logo, as apparently there was some lost Beatles record that had something to do with sun. But of course it wasn't. But these guys didn't know about it because they were in the United Kingdom at the time recording their second record called Hope. And the only thing they saw about this whole thing going on in North America, about this comparison between them and the Beatles, was an article in the New Musical Express, in ME, that said daft American journalist who can't hear makes Beatles comparison. Deaf American journalist makes comparison to the Beatles. Cats are crazy tonight. So meanwhile, Capitol in the States is pushing this Beatles tie-in, because whenever anybody asked, because Capitol was the distributor for the Beatles in the States as well, is Klaatu the Beatles, they would release these vague press releases that never actually said, no, they weren't. So there became this kind of weird tie-in that people thought these guys were the Beatles for a while. But of course they're not. And it's just a great record. This cover is painted by Canadian graphic artist Ted Jones, who is currently an art professor at Fisk University, which I believe is in the southern US. And this theme here was carried on to their second LP, Hope. And it's fun. It's got the mice on it and the magic mushroom. Oh, sorry, they're not magic. They're just mushrooms. There's no magical quality to those at all. So the big hit off of this, I don't know if you'd call it a big hit, but Calling Occupants of Interplanetary Craft, the recognized anthem of World Contact Day, was subsequently recorded by the Carpenters and was a huge top 40 hit for them worldwide. It was a minor hit for Klaatu, backed with the song Sub-rosa Subway. And the concept for calling Occupants of Interplanetary Craft the recognized anthem of World Contact Day comes from this organization known as the International Flying Saucer Bureau, who in, I think it was 1953, sent a bulletin out to their members to participate in what they were calling World Contact Day. And then at a predetermined date and time, all of the members of this group were to send out a telepathic message to visitors from outer space, and the message that they were all supposed to send telepathically was calling occupants of interplanetary craft. So that's where the concept for this, and this kind of ties into this the whole way this record works. It's kind of, at times it's kind of quirky, humoristic, fun little Beatles type, almost twee songs, but there's only like a couple of those. At other times it's these interesting songs like this Calling Occupants, and there's another space song on, there's a couple more space songs, so there's kind of like these themes of space, and then these interesting character study songs as well. So next is was California Jam, which was released as a single before the record came out, and this was released in 1974 before the record came out, and California Jam was the first single released by the trio after Terry Draper joined the band. So after that on the record is California Jam. It's kind of it's one of the more traditional straight ahead rock and roll songs on the record, but not the most traditional. Anus of Uranus is another one of these space songs about playing, I think it's playing cards on Venus, and sitting in the cockpit strapped down in the chair. I said, hey, tell me what's over there. He said, meet my computer. He's a friendly son of a gun, and we're having fun. And playing cards on Venus in a cloudy room, pass a glass of ammonia, I got to get off soon, sunbathing on Mercury or jamming on Jupiter, what do you prefer? I mean, it's a really kind of crazy, psychedelic, trippy, spacey rock tune, and it was originally released as a single by Wallachuk and DeLong on GRT Records before they were signed to Daffodil to record their record. And there's a couple songs on here that are from the pre-Draper days. The next is Sub-rosa Subway, and that is a story of Alfred, and it's a true story, about Alfred Ely Beach, who tried to create the first subway in New York City in the 1870s, but it was a failure. And he tried, New York City has always had traffic jam problems, and he tried to put a tunnel of subway underneath Broadway, but he was kind of blocked for several years by the merchants and everything, and it was going to be like air powered as opposed to steam powered, so it's kind of an interesting, and this is the one that's really McCartney-esque. The vocals are at times, it's not McCartney, but it certainly is very close to the way McCartney sings. So, and the chord structures are similar to the songs Blackbird and It's All Too Much by the Beatles, which the band did intentionally as a homage or an homage to the Beatles. So, and that's the song that fueled the Beatles rumor. And this was another B-side. It was the B-side that Walshuk and Long released on the B-side to Heinous of Uranus, which was on this record called Anus of Uranus, before Long joined the band. And then on side 2, there's a song called True Life Hero, which is the most straight-ahead rock and roll song on this record. And it's the second single released after Draper joined the band. Dr. Marvello, this a really psychedelic tune with electric sitars in it, and that was like an early single from them again before they became a trio. And next is Sir Bodsworth Rugglesby III, which is another one of these kind of quirky, character-driven Beatlesque kind of tunes. Although it's not overly Beatles sounding. It's just that kind of storytelling is a little Beatley. It's about a fictional British explorer in the great Victorian tradition of explorers who bets that he can go to hell and come back alive. And then it's this kind of, it's that story told in the song. Interestingly, Mo Kaufman played flute on that song, and I studied with Mo Kaufman when I was in high school for a summer, so that was kind of fun. He was a flautist, most famous for Swinging Shepherd Blues, but I studied with him playing sax. And then finally the last song, and the longest song on the record at like 8.5 minutes, is called Little Neutrino. And it's an incredibly trippy sci-fi rock prog tune with distorted electronic kind of vocals, and it's about a neutrino, and what a concept for a song about a neutrino, and it talks about how it survived the sun and escaped, and then it'll travel right through your body and you won't even know it. Anyway, so really interesting, unique concepts for songs, and just a beautifully crafted record this is. And I don't even think it's their best record. I think their second record is their best record, Hope. Although Hope is a little bit more symphonic rock and not quite as all over the map as this one. And this is mastered by, I don't know if it's going to pop up or not, but anyways, it says JAMF in the Deadwax, which stands for Just Another Mastering Facility. It's got these great vanity labels, again, reflecting the artwork on the front, and then the back cover for side 1 and side 2. Now the cover doesn't say the record title, but the labels do, where it says 347 E.S.T. And the U.S. record company, Capitol, when they released it in the States, just called the record Klaatu because they felt that 347 E.S.T. was far too obscure a title. And this is just a great record. This is, in my opinion, probably one of the 10 best Canadian records ever released. This is just this quirky little far-out gem of an LP. It was recorded in Toronto. Terry Brown of Rush fame was the producer and the recording guy, the producer and the engineer for the record. So while the record has this great layered textural psychedelicness to it, it still has that standard Terry Brown horrible sound quality to it that you know, most of the Rush records that he was involved with have as well. Just that standard Terry Brown, it's like a blanket's thrown over a drum kit. Anytime anybody hits a cymbal on a Terry Brown record, it never hangs, it never sustains. You know, if you hit a cymbal in real life, it'll hang there for like, you know, 5, 10 seconds. If you hit a cymbal in a Terry Brown recording, it just goes tink, and that's it. It's always like that, and this record has that too. But the rest of the soundscape on this record is fantastic. This is dollar bin fare. You know, you can find this record everywhere, and it's sold all over the world. So let me see. I think that was everything else. Just a great kind of psych rock record. Now the next one was called Hope. A great record in my opinion. Better than this? Debatable. I think it's a little bit better, but this certainly has a little bit more charm in its psychedelicness. Yeah. After that was Sir Army Suit, which wasn't a bad record. If you want to explore this band and you see Endangered Species, don't even buy it. It's an absolute utter turd of a record that the record label made them release all of these commercial pop tunes. And then their last record, which the record label dumped them, and then they came back to Canada and they were signed by Capital of Canada, and they released their last record called Magentaline, which got back to their more standard sound. And part of the condition of that, though, was that they had to tour, and that's the only time that the band ever toured was under Magentaline. But on the tour, Long left the band, and they subsequently broke up shortly after. So that is lead into Deadwax 3, Klaatu. Oh, I want to show these too. I don't collect singles. They're not really of much interest to me, but I do have the 45 RPM for Calling Occupants, backed with Sub-rosa Subway. So it's on Daffodil, but it was released by GRT in Canada. And I also have the single for We're Off You Know and Around the Universe in 80 Days from the second record in a picture sleeve with a custom label. So two of the things from my very small 45 collection. So that's it. That is 345 E.S.T. Check it out, everybody. Have a great day. Keep the record spinning.